Hi everyone, welcome back. I am sorry for the long hiatus. I haven't responded well to the first lot of treatment, so yeah, I'm hoping that we'll be able to have a bit more of a regular schedule, but I can't say. So we're going to do 3 chapters tonight. So the sacrifice to the ugly little girl. It says Tyrion 12 in the title, but we're just going to do 3 chapters tonight. And then next week I'll probably take a break because I have my next treatment this week. I'm just judging by the last time I was knackered, so there's no way I'll be able to do it next Sunday night. But yeah, Claire is like rightfully telling me to slow the pace a little bit. Yeah. I mean, at this rate, Kevin Lannister will never die. We're keeping him alive. So I just want to say hi to Johnny Be Crazy. Hi, Johnny. Lady Dreamfire, AU, Sunny, Connie, Bran. Hi, everybody. How are you? So apologies if you were waiting for a naked Cersei tonight. We're not going to get a naked Cersei, but we are going to get cannibalism. So the sacrifice of the ugly little girl. So if you didn't want to walk of shame, you're going to get a walk of the lame. Maybe is that what we could call this first chapter? The sacrifice.
Could be.
Anyway, how are you, Claire? Before we jump into it,
I'm okay. I've just noticed this light's really bright. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I'm just looking at my notes, and it's actually been quite a while since I'm trying to scratch my brain to think what was in these chapters. I've made a couple of notes, so we'll see how we go.
So my first question about the sacrifice chapter, and I'd be interested to know what the chat sees. This is probably one of those, typical Catherine Cronin, really obvious questions, but I feel like this chapter in particular has the most amount of foreshadowing and feels most like a Winds of Winter chapter. In fact, I wonder, did it belong to Winds of Winter initially? I wonder, was it put into dance, but could it have been something he had in mind for Winds? Because
could be. I mean, there are quite a few chapters that link up that it's the atmosphere, isn't it, of moving it. We've always had winter is coming. It's when neck deep in it now, and everything about these chapters is cold, dark, hungry, winter, starvation, and there is that crossover between some of those Stannis chapters, and I don't think there'll be any let up with that as we move into Winds. But yeah, they're kind of, some of these chapters are very interchangeable, aren't they?
You can see why he's struggling with Winds, because it's really bleak. It's like it's difficult to read. It must be like 100 times more difficult to write and just kind of immerse yourself in that world. It's because I forgot just how bleak it was. Like the fact that the journey suddenly, they're moving only like what feels like a few meters in a day. Like everything is just stacked against them. And this is coming from Asha, who has grown up in not as an extreme an environment as this, but definitely an extreme environment. And even for her, this is like way too much. But Johnny says long pig is slang term for human meat. Apparently we taste similar to pork. Yeah. Are we going to see a lot more of this, like more cannibalism? Is there going to be more of this kind of darkness into like, and is there kind of, because there seems to be like, obviously they're burning people because they're doing this, but at the same time, I feel like eventually everybody is going to be resorting to this kind of thing. It's going to be like the movie Alive. It's going to be just everybody up the north.
I'm just laughing at the comments. Johnny seems to have a real issue with with this topic, talking about planes crashing and if he'd have food, and so yeah, it's a very kind of primal feeling and it's weaved into storytelling so many times, this utter revulsion around the concept of eating another human being. Yeah, I mean, we could go on about this for a long time. I think me and Kat are both vegetarian.
Yeah, and it's not, but it's almost like the humans in the north are becoming like the dragons. Like dragons can, you even have cannibal in Fire and Blood, like, but like dragons eat one another as well, and that doesn't go too well for them. I don't know. I feel like there's going to be something in that. I feel like George isn't done with that subject at all. But yeah, I'm kind of interested in just how difficult it is to move around the north, and it makes me think about just the future of this war and how impossible it's going to be to meet the others and whites and White Walkers on their own terrain, basically.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a very difficult thing to conceptualize, and I really do think it's the number one issue for George, trying to communicate this. And how can he go from like Stannis's party, who are really struggling, to the Dothraki? He can't, like, it's going to be very hard to see the Dothraki there. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's good, or the Unsullied, or like even fresh armies that are well fed are going to struggle up here. I'm interested to see how the show does it as well, actually.
It's not going to be. I mean, I think the show will completely sensationalize and just use the backdrop as a battle scene, and not really get into what the impact of starvation in those kind of climes would be. But there's this thing about being cursed as well, isn't there? So the Peasberries are now being cursed as cannibals, and we've obviously got the Rats King. It's offensive to the gods, to the old god. Well, is it offensive to the old gods because don't the old gods demand kind of human sacrifice? But human sacrifice is different to cannibalism. There's a fine line.
Yeah,
there is a fine line, but I've got a note here, and I can't remember reading about this character vaguely. This a character called Suggs. We come across some really repulsive characters as well in these chapters, and I don't know whether it's just because of the atmosphere that they're in, or is it just are they just horrendous human beings? Suggs. And in my notes I've just written twisted piece of turd.
That's a terrible thing to say. Is that madness?
He seems to be obsessed with fire and torture, and it's just grim. And then you get the Karstarks turning up, which I think this should send alarm bells ringing immediately. It shouldn't. We have the spoilers for the release chapter, the Theon release chapter from Winds of Winter, and it's kind of revealed in that chapter that the Karstarks are up to no good, and what Stannis does, in retribution for them turning their cloaks. But just the fact that they turn up and immediately you find out they've got food, so you can imagine how what that's going to be like. But they immediately just say, oh yeah, this is for us, we're not going to be sharing it with anyone. This, with the supplies, the provisions that we've got, is just for us. Straight away it's like, how are you going to trust these people? It just and at the same time demanding that Stannis gives them Winterfell as Karstarks, as kin of the Starks and kings of the North. It's just like, who the hell do you think you are?
Yeah, and it's funny what you said there as well. Sorry to bring it back to cannibalism. And Johnny is saying about Sam describes how one of the Night's Watch members, when they're burning him, smelt good. I don't know why you thought about Biter and Brienne, Johnny. That's terrible. But there is a real sense of like physical nourishment versus spiritual nourishment. And it comes down to that in our own world as well. When times are hard, people reach for extreme religious practices to just nourish themselves in some sort of way. If you're not going to eat your fellow man, you might as well burn them, because it might save you. And if the idea of eating them is kind of queasy, maybe burning them is all right. And that like that seems to link back to that idea of the sacrifice, that like there's a spiritual sacrifice on behalf of everyone that follows R'hllor in this chapter. It's not just the people they're sacrificing, it's themselves they're sacrificing as well. Oh, Bran is reading Fire and Blood, and yeah, it's pretty. There's a lot going on in Fire and Blood. There's a lot of little tidbits just dropped here and there. So that we have growing tensions though between the religious groups in this chapter as well. All is not well with the followers of R'hllor, and this is going to be a huge thing as well, and it's something that the show can't shy away from either, because with Mel, there's definitely going to be a standoff there of some sort, and I'm not entirely sure. Like Justin Massey, he claims to know something, or he hints at knowing something, but I'm not entirely sure what. And he's not entirely on board with the whole R'hllor thing. And he's
still referring to the gods, isn't he? Plural.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's obviously a big indicator that he's still worshipping the seven.
Yeah. And then we have Tycho Nestori. Is that how you pronounce his name? He shows up. And the Iron Bank are starting to crop up all over the place now. They're starting to become, like, even in the depths of winter, here they are. So these guys are not letting go of a debt just because there's some zombies on the way or bad weather. They're just gonna...
Sounds like the people who used to administer my student loan.
Yeah.
I remember about 20 years ago, we were being at my mum's house. She took a phone call from them, and she ended up saying, poor mum, she was harassed by them for years, but she ended up saying to them that Clare has dropped out of society and lives in a caravan somewhere. I don't know where she is.
Dropped out of society. Brilliant. That makes it sound like you're not going to tea parties and...
No longer on the circuit.
You're not
you won't be able to trace her. Yeah, she's untraceable. Yeah.
Oh God. So the Iron Bank, they've nobody's dropping out of society. Actually, Theon has just dropped back in to society with Jane. What, like? Jane showing up noseless. This makes me think of the ugly little girl later on with the mask that Arya takes, that the girl begged for death because she was disfigured beyond, kind of, she couldn't cope with it, basically. And it kind of made me think of Jane, and I wondered, is that kind of foreshadowing that Arya will end up taking Jane's face in this kind of weird, twisted way, where Jane was pretending to be Arya, and then Arya
it would be quite poetic, wouldn't it? I mean, what else is Jane cool for, really?
I mean, unless it's like her and Theon will end up together, because they're like, Theon will learn to love her despite her disfigurement because of I don't know. I'm not really sure where Jane's arc goes. I mean, she's noseless like Tyrion now. It's really like she's just had one of the worst arcs. It's awful. And then Ashen, one.
I was just going to say, I kind of agreed with Asha at the end of this chapter where she just looks, you must, I mean, I'm just getting into Asha's head for a second. It's just the scene. She must have thought, am I tripping out here or something? There are some Ironborn and this bizarre guy with this long hat with feathers, and she actually just, I think she just bursts out laughing and says, this is just too absurd, and it must just look crazy. But it did make me wonder. Tycho does turn up with 6 krakens, and I can't remember who it was, is saying, "Oh, you paid for sea scum to escort you to Stannis's camp." But it just makes me wonder whether or not that there's some deeper connection there between the Iron Bank and the Ironborn.
Maybe. I mean, it would be interesting if Euron is being bankrolled rather than if he's not as good a pirate, but really good at getting loans.
So, yeah, I mean, the only other thing really of me to note from this chapter is that Asha and Alison Mormont, the she-bear, or Ali, as Asha describes her, are getting quite pally, quite friendly. And I think that means it's lining up for potentially the she-bear will do something heroic to save Asha's life at some point.
Yeah, do you think this is a sign that George will have a lot of women in charge of powerful houses by the end of this?
Yeah,
that'll be more of a woman's kind of. It'll be more female led. Like, he won't change society overnight, but that because there's going to be so many men just wiped out. There's definitely seems that way.
Maybe they're trying to reflect that a little bit on the show with Cersei on the throne.
Yeah, and Sansa and Dany. Yeah. So that's it
really for me.
Yeah, that was it for me as well. And then we have Victarion.
What do we all think about Victarion?
Oh.
He's renowned, isn't he, in the fandom as being a bit of a buffoon. But I think he's also, you know, he's an idiot, but he's a dangerous idiot.
Oh, hi, Lisa. House polished.
Oh, Lisa, hi.
Lisa
with her new Lisa.
Yeah, so nice. Bit of a buffoon. Yeah, he's just all bravado. I feel like if in our world, he would just be one of those like really super aggressive, roided gym rats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who doesn't know how to like spell his own name?
But he's a classic example of somebody. You could say this about Daenerys. You could say this about Cersei. People who find people who find themselves in a position of power and genuinely believe that what they are doing is the right thing to do, and are absolutely clueless about the impact that it's having on people around them. There's a couple of examples here that just this typifies for me Victarion in a nutshell. From his point of view in this chapter, when they come across the slave ships and he's breaking the chains because he thinks to himself, this is going to ingratiate me with my queen, with Daenerys. So he's kind of waving the flag as being a breaker of chains, and then immediately he enslaves them by making them salt wives. And it's like, how? But it just doesn't seem to get the concept that one thing is completely opposed to the other.
No, he doesn't.
In the same sentence, I am breaking your chains. You should be happy to be salt wives and come and, you know, serve me for the rest of your lives. It's like, really? Can you not? You don't see that Daenerys is just going to look at that and go, you fucking pillock.
Yeah.
He is a bit of an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, he is, and
but he's dangerous.
Very dangerous. And there's what's really dangerous, I think, about Victarion is that he will use whatever, how easily it is to be, he's easily manipulated. Like he's already using and appealing to the Red God with little to no, like there's such a strange fluency between Red God and Drown God creeping into him. And that to me just sends up all sorts of alarm bells, because you can't live, whatever about religious fanatics, at least you know where you stand. But when he's going between both, and Victarion is a strange kind of character because we don't have much of an impression of him outside of his own POVs. I think we only had maybe 1 or 2 chapters, an Aeron chapter and an Asha chapter where we even met him. So it's hard, like we know he's an idiot, but it's hard to see if other people see him as the same kind of idiot. I think Moqorro probably does.
Moqorro must have worked that out within about 30 seconds. Yeah, and there's that kind of delicate balancing act, isn't there, where Moqorro is not going to denounce the Red God. He's going to say, look, you know, all these other gods, whatever, but the Red God is. And Victarion's having to say, yeah, okay, just be careful, though, what you're saying. And so there's this real delicate thing, like balancing act going on about the religions, probably from Moqorro's perspective. But again, dumbing everything down for Victarion. He's just thinking, the more religions, the more power I've got, the more, you know, this, I'm going to be successful if we're all worshipping all of the, like all of the, and it's just no, just don't get it. Just doesn't get it.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
But he thinks he's so heroic and like, how could anybody possibly resist him? And he's going to get one over on Euron. He knows exactly what, and it's like, yeah, he's an interesting character from a storytelling perspective and how he fits into this story. But wow.
Do you think though he'll be the Stannis of the East? He'll go the way of Stannis. Like Stannis is driven by duty, and Victarion seems to be driven.
Oh, are you there? Hello. Is that you that's gone, Cat? Or me? Hello? I don't know what's happened, so we'll just wait for Catherine to come back. Ah, there you are.
Oh, are we back? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I think it was my chat went down. Hi to Reese and AJ and Mackenzie. Thanks, guys, for joining us. The Night King got me. Yeah, thanks, Lisa. But yeah, I just got the feeling from rereading this chapter that Victarion, he's miles away from Stannis, but just in terms of how he's willing to throw anything at his mission. And potentially abandon long-held principles that might actually that could save him, like Stannis taking on Mel and all that kind of thing, and the way that Victarion has taken on Moqorro. And then we have Dany also potentially could take on Red God, or she at least could be a Red God of some. I'm sorry. Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on here. Let me just double check.
The
snow is pretty bad, so I think it's been bad all day. So it might be it might be messing with my connection. But yeah, so I wondered about the significance of him renaming the ships in this chapter. He renames the ships Ghost and Shade, and I think Willing Maiden. And it made me think of, I don't know, it made me think of a couple of things. It made me think of Jon Snow with Ghost, and Shade and Willing Maiden made me think of maybe Nissa. And is there some sort of prophecy with Dany about passing beneath a shadow?
Yes, there is. Yeah, there is. Yeah. Passing underneath the shadow. I'm just looking at my notes. Doesn't he change the ship was originally called the Willing Maiden, the one where he gets
wasn't it? Girls. And then it's Ghost and Shade that he changes it to.
He changes the name of the Willing Maiden to the Screaming Slave.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hello.
I'm still here. Oh God, what's going on?
I just heard it make a strange noise. I don't know if I'm disappearing or you're disappearing.
I don't know. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. It's all the gremlins. Yeah, I just wondered what the significance of that was, if there was any kind of significance. Is it George kind of playing with this, with prophecies and stuff like that?
Maybe. I'm sure it is. I'm sure there is some significance.
And it also kind of shows his lack of imagination. Ghost, Shade. It's like one word.
Yeah. I remember really kind of enjoying this chapter just because he's so ridiculous. But I'm just trying to make sense of my notes because it's been a while. So you get basically they're taking these Giscari ships and traders, including a ship that has the young girls on, heading for Lease, I think, as trained bed slaves. So it divvies them up. This is breaks the chains and then divvies them up amongst his crew, saving them to be salt wives. Did you notice anything significant about the description of any of these girls?
No. Do tell.
One of the girls that is described, he takes 7 of them. So again, that's significant. He takes 7 for himself. I think there are more than 7. He divvies them up between the crew and then takes 7 for himself. And then that's when he does that horrible thing by giving the gift of innocence and beauty to the drowned god. By setting them alive on a raft. But they're described as, there's one who is described as having amber skin and golden eyes, which just made me think of Children of the Forest. I just wondered whether he'd rounded up somehow a Child of the Forest, because that was a very unusual description. I don't know. It just made me think it sounded similar to a description of...
So he might have pleased one god and displeased several others.
Yeah. And the fact that it's, this gift of innocence and beauty.
Oh, it's so gross.
He thinks he's a hero. He thinks that Dany's going to bear him sons. He thinks that he's going to be able to claim the dragons with the horn.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting, this hell horn.
What do we think about this horn in the chat? Dragon binder. It says must claim the horn with blood. That's what that's what Macquaro says it says. Right? It might say something completely different.
And no mortal man shall blow the horn and live.
This is the one that you're on. The guy blew the horn at the Kingsmoot, right?
Yes, and he kind of blew his chest out, didn't he?
Yeah.
So well, let's think about that then. There's Valyrian glyphs on this horn, and Moqorro interprets the writing, including this: "No mortal man shall blow the horn and live," which suggests that either there are immortal men or gods. The intended purpose for the hornblower of this horn is somebody who is not a mortal man. I don't know. Maybe they're doing the, Tolkien thing, and it's not a man, it's a woman.
Well, yeah. Or a white of some sort, whether
maybe,
whatever kind of white it is.
No mortal man, not no mortal being or no mortal thing, no mortal man shall blow the horn and live. And that you need to claim the horn with blood. And I don't think, I guess to be like, a justified owner of the weapon, a little bit like Daenerys and the slave whip. It's conditional. There are rules around this, and you have to, one, be not a mortal man, and also claim the horn with blood.
But what if it's
fire for blood?
What if it's not for dragons? What if it's for like people with Valyrian blood? What if it's binding Valyrians to your will, or maybe invading their dreams and giving them strange prophecies? Like it feels like it's a lot of effort to go to for dragons when we have a history of dragons being tamed by people not of Valyrian blood. Like it feels like it's a lot. Like I'd be interested to see if this horn is blown exactly. Can it steal power from a Targaryen? Like, could Dany suddenly find herself not being able to use Drogon, for instance? That would be the interesting thing.
Yeah, it could be that this is for, binding something that isn't dragon, but I'm never going to stop saying, I know we're almost towards the end of the book now, but I'm never going to stop referencing, and there's a lot of it towards the end of this book, like several times per chapter. The sound of the hell horn sounds like 1,000 screams all melded into one, which again just makes me think there's some kind of significance here with George has said that we're not going to see gods in this story, roaming the earth. So that's not the, whatever god, the red god or whatever, R'hllor picks up this hell horn and blows it, and he's, it's meant for him because he's not a mortal man. I don't think it's not going to be anything like that. It's going to have to be something that's immortal and not a man. It has to be one of the magical beings that we know, or that we've seen, or that we're aware of. So the others.
AJ says Moqorro makes it clear that you don't need to blow it to be its master, only claim it with blood, whatever that means. Yeah, and to be the master of the horn doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a master of dragons, because presumably you need to blow the horn to be master of dragons, and who then is the actual master?
Yeah.
It's very
so to have physically be able to say that it's yours, you have to claim it with blood. Again, whatever that means. I'm guessing acquired in battle, or who knows,
or blood your own blood,
fire for blood, or your own blood. Yeah,
like maybe you have to die and be reborn,
but you can't blow the horn if you're not, if you are a mortal man. So that's I just thought that was really fascinating, especially the reference to the 1,000 yet again.
So this is different to the horn then that Sam has that can take down the wall. So we've got 2 horns out there in the world. And where there's 2 horns, there's probably a third. Because George likes to do things in threes.
He does like to do things in threes. Yeah, AJ saying, I think we're at the point where Euron can almost be considered a magical being. He's definitely at the moment collecting like magical effigies and people. You know, he's basically gathering priests, isn't he, from various different religions. That's got to be for some kind of sacrifice. That's got or something horrible, claiming something. I don't know, claiming something with blood, maybe. Yeah, but Victorian seems to think that he's going to be able to save Dany. We are beginning to hear the rumours that we get this in Victarion's chapter, and I think we also get it in Tyrion's chapter. Oh no, she's dead. Dany's dead. She fell off the dragon. She's not around anymore. Everyone's kind of writing her off. And it happens a few times in this chapter where Victorian, as soon as he hears it, he just murders whoever says that Dany's not alive anymore. Yeah.
So since this is our last Ironborn chapter, well, not including the ones in Winds, do you think, well, it's a weird place to end, I feel, this Ironborn, like, because it's definitely suggesting that Victorian is a significant character going forward, that this is the last, like, the last Ironborn we'll hear from in Dance. But are we going to see any of the Ironborn with dragons at the end in the books, obviously, or maybe very close to Dany?
I don't think so, unless somehow Euron can get hold of, if there is ever an ice dragon in the story. I don't know.
So, okay, so, and I'd be interested, and AJ, do not apologize. We love the Euron stuff as well. And Connie says, claim it in King's blood like Dany has in her veins. Yeah. Give it to the others. Reese says they're already dead. AJ says Victorian may end up, or is it Euron? May end up with the other horn. Sorry, I keep bringing up Euron. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, Euron may end up with the horn that Sam has, potentially. You've got a lot of crazy theories. Keep them coming, AJ. We'd like to hear them. Even Victorian's chapters are indirectly about him. Yeah, I mean, any of the Ironborn's chapter, like any of the brothers, it's about Euron. And like when we get into Winds, I'm sure Asha and Theon, the more they hear, the more valuable they'll be to anybody else who's trying to defeat Euron, because he's going to be a massive threat. As we move into,
I am convinced, and I know I've said this before, I'll say it again. I am convinced that Sam will, unwittingly or not, but it will be Sam who takes down Euron with an arrow in his other eye. And that's going to be the end of Euron, because it's been foreshadowed with Sam and the archery. He's going to have to take down somebody significant. They're both in the same, roughly in the books anyway, in the same proximity at the moment. They're in and around Old Town. There's so many references to Sam being a terrible archer, and that's my prediction, that Sam is going to be the one that kills somebody really significant, and that person is going to be Euron.
So do you think that'll happen very early? Because if Euron has already taken Old Town, do you think it'll happen in Old Town, or do you think it'll happen later?
I think it'll happen fairly early on in Old Town.
Oh, really? You don't think Euron is going to be hanging around for too much longer?
No.
Oh, that might be controversial, Claire.
Could be.
Now, I like your idea, but I wonder, will it just be that he'll blind Euron completely, but it won't stop Euron in his tracks, and that'll kind of lend more to this kind of danger and mystique of Euron, that even as a blind person, he'll have some sort of sight. It'll just, because sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, AJ is going to tell us her Euron theory, because we're on the last Ironborn chapter. Yeah, go ahead.
Excellent.
Always like to hear Ironborn theories. Yeah, he's I do enjoy reading the Victorian chapters just because he's so utterly ridiculous and so unaware of everything.
Yeah, he's just no self-awareness at all. I love your theory about Sam taking down Euron, but I also kind of hate it because it means that we'd be really only left with Asha as the decent character. And I'm not saying that Euron is decent and like morally good. I mean, as an interesting, powerful character. I mean, Victorian, Aeron, and Theon are not really the ones that we're going to be looking to for strength in Ironborn. Although Aeron may surprise us. Aeron may have like some sort of road to Damascus moment, but in the opposite direction where he actually gets less religiously crazy. So AJ says Euron annihilates both the red wine fleet and his own in a massive blood sacrifice. Wow. Dampire's final moments are spent watching something monstrous from the depths in response. So that would be the Krakens coming drawn to the dead. The humanoid god Aeron rebuilt his life around was a projection, and the real deal is a monster. Yeah, I think we are going to see Aeron transform into some sort of monstrous antithesis of I just turned into what was his name, Manuel from Fawlty Towers. Yeah, I think we're going to see Aeron become like maybe even like just this darker force to deal with Euron.
Yeah.
But I think Sam could absolutely take him out. Or Aeron could take his place. Aeron could rise up to take the place of Euron. Definitely we're getting Krakens. We're definitely getting Krakens, right?
There's got to be some last minute redemption for some characters as well, where there's just a very quick turnaround of like, oh, right, wow, didn't expect that. But, you know, where it's like some huge, whether it's some sort of religious moment or a big epiphany or just a massive turnaround from a character that we've known for years and years and years. And we suddenly expect, not that I'm ever saying that Euron's going to be a good guy, but maybe there's some of those grey area ambivalent characters like Damphair, possibly. Yeah,
he's one of the ones that I miss the most from the show, Damphair. I like that character. Well, and in fairness, I like it more with the Winds, the Forsaken chapter, but yeah. AJ continues, then Sam witnesses all of this because he's at the Old Tower people. Then Euron arrives with his black and bloody tide, Kraken tentacles tearing down the city's defences so Euron's reanimated whites can invade. Euron himself kills Leighton and Melora, and as Sam and Sorella flee Old Town one step ahead of the Ironborn whites, they hear him blow the horn of winter from atop the high tower. That's it. Wow. That is a theory. So you think Euron will summon the power to create drowned whites in some way? Because we're going to have drowned whites and ice whites potentially. That's interesting. Yeah. That's really interesting.
And a little bit like the resurrected red god kind of, you know, victims are fire whites, and then we've got the possible like stone whites, the stone men, you know, they're so
the fire whites, even though we have potentially, we're going to have two, but we've definitely had two already, I guess, with Beric and Catelyn. They seem, even though we've got to know them more intimately, and I guess they retain most of their former selves, like they seem to require the most amount of human intervention for that to work. Like if Damphair is a bit of a white himself, or Patchface for sure, and then we have the ice whites, they seem to not need human intervention in order to be whited. So it would be interesting if he takes that further, like, and kind of extends that out into a group whiting from drowned and what fire whites. AJ
Ooh,
says,
interesting.
I feel like it's building towards some sort of Lovecraftian thing with Euron. I definitely agree with that. It's really Lovecraftian, the whole Euron side thing. Reese says, but ice whites can go underwater too, though. Yep, terrifying. And AJ says he's inevitably going to be defeated by Dany. He's going to cause a lot of chaos along the way. He's the closest thing to an apocalyptic scenario we have in this story. It's definitely going to wake up the South. I think the Euron storyline is designed to wake up the South, and they'll think they'll start running towards, maybe potentially start running towards the north, and that's when they'll find the real problems. But yeah, so anything else for Victarion, our last Ironborn?
Nope.
So,
ready to move on to Arya.
Arya, the ugly little girl. Question number 1. How does one use a baby's face in assassination mode? And like how does that work? What, like, when you have children's faces and babies' faces and old people's faces, like, how does it work in terms of, does your body also change? Like, can Arya take the face of an old man and like still have her body? Like, I'm still not quite sure.
I thought of that on the TV show. There was a bit where she kills Meryn Trant and she transforms from the girl into Arya. There's a massive difference in height, in just everything. So they're not. So they're more just. It's not.
Is
Just
the face like a glamour almost?
Maybe, yeah.
Like,
I mean, it must be the same with Mel if it's the same. We've had this revelation anyway through the books that she is older. I know that we've had that rubbed in our faces from the TV show, but it is alluded to in the books that she is a lot older. And she's, she has the body of a 25-year-old and the face as well. So yeah, it must be, the glamour must just provide the illusion of the whole thing.
Just made me, I was just thinking, I was like having one of those weird fantasy moments where I was thinking, oh, imagine if Arya takes the face of Cersei's baby. And that's how she kills her. Like, it's totally far-fetched. Yeah. It's totally far-fetched. Wow. But like, it's just, it's such a weird thing to, like, how do you use a baby's face in assassination? It's so twisted and dark. Really, really twisted.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to say about this chapter, but I'm going to try and speed us through it because we've got 20 minutes and then that would have been an hour. There's a lot of reference to Waywoods, Ebony and Wayward, so that, the balance, the yin and yang opposites, just all of it. The Ebony and the Wayward chairs and the faces. So there's a group of men here divvying up, well, I suppose a death schedule of who kills who. The clients coming in, new clients coming in. And they're deciding, oh no, I don't know him, I know him, I don't know him. And Arya is asked again. So the testing, they are constantly testing whether or not, on the surface of it, is Arya ready to go on a mission. But I think they're probably testing out more than that. They're testing out the extent of her powers as a warg, as a Stark, how they're going to be able to use her and possibly, manipulate her. I mean, she's a child. She's beginning, I think, to really have these two identities now of Arya the Faceless Man, who just, that's what she uses day to day to just get her through the day. And then she has this identity that we now have a name for, that's the Night Wolf. And it's almost like this extra protection that she calls upon. It's like a superhero cape, this thing, this entity, this power that she gives a name to, and it's called the Night Wolf.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I thought because I was quite interested in how when you take the face of somebody, you get their last moments. And I wondered, did her kind of identity as a night wolf kind of help shield her from that almost latching onto your soul, if you like somebody's soul latching onto your soul in a way, in the same way that every time Beric came back from the dead, he lost a bit of his soul. I wonder if every time you take somebody's face, you kind of take a bit of their soul and maybe in a way kind of lose a bit of yourself. But this night wolf thing seems to be like helping her preserve her identity in a way. It also made me wonder.
It also makes her feel brave. She seems to draw upon this when she's in a difficult situation or where she's been pressed. Who are you? Who are you? And they're asking her, who are you and why are you here? So what they want to know is the answer to that question that can be the only answer is no one, and I am here to serve the many-faced God. That's the only answer to that question. The real answer in Arya's mind, whether she admits it or not, and whether they can detect it or not, is I am Arya Stark, and I'm here actually for my own pleasures, to carry out my own vendettas, to gather as much information and tricks and mummers tricks and faceless men tricks and everything else that I can, to use that in my vendetta against the people that I've got on my list. I am the Night Wolf. Yeah, that's what she really is, and that's the persona that she adopts when she needs to be brave. And oh my God, there's no time more pressing at the moment where she has to be brave than having somebody's face transplanted onto her own face.
Sunny says Arya can take the face of the girl that Cersei threw down the well. That would be pretty dark. Would she be rotten by now? Reese wants to know. Probably, maybe. But Sunny thinks that.
Was that? Malaria,
AJ comments that the bonding of the face, of the mask to her face, was really creepy and weird. Yeah, totally. And asks, so the soul is inextricably linked to her physical body, so much so that just wearing your face gives you nightmares. Also, the soul seems to live on after death too. Yeah, it certainly seems that there's no life after, there's no afterlife as such. Your soul is
trapped somehow.
Yeah, there is that. And it kind of made me think that in a way, we talk about Bran and his abilities to see back in time in the Weirwood net, but there's an opportunity here for Arya to also, in taking someone's face, solve a mystery of some sort. How did that person's last moments work out? Maybe solve the mystery of someone's murder. It could also potentially give insight into what it's like to be whited. Those last moments just before you're whited. There's a few ways in which Arya's could use this power, not just for assassination. There's other ways George could explore this. Just by that little thing of the fact that you have nightmares and you relive that person's final moments. It's very Byron-esque. Byron has a poem called Lines Inscribed Upon a Cup, where he had a this wine cup made out of a skull that he found, and he imagined that it was the skull of a monk, and that this poem is told from the point of view of a this monk in his soul in this skull, and he's thinking, well, at least it's better than being in the ground. At least I still get to taste the grape and help somebody get drunk, and this idea that your soul is still around, even in death. It's very, very creepy.
It's like an echo, isn't it? Because it does seem to be momentarily. It's not, or it's kind of like just you'll experience a short period of basically the last thing that person saw, which was experiencing their own death. But do you think, well, there's a few things here. I think I'm beginning to feel more and more the faceless men have got some very cultish type behaviors. There's lots of secrets, there's lots of levels and layers that you need to unlock and get to, you know, all these tests that you have to do to get you to a different stage. And the price of all of this, if you think of like destructive cults that we know that are out there, the price that you have to pay ultimately is yourself. You're giving yourself, somebody else is making, right down to your choices and decisions about how you live your life, you know, all of it. And you can only be an effective faceless man if you are like that, if you've given yourself, you know, the price is you, everything about you, the way back in, I think it was Storm of Swords, when Arya arrives at the House of Black and White and she's talking to the kindly old man, and he's describing the physical, your arms, your legs, your woman's bits, everything you have to give up to, you know. So there's a physical thing, but there's also you lose yourself, you lose your identity. We know that that's not happening to Arya, but what about all the other? I don't know, it's like some sort of weird indoctrination kind of cult where the members have to go through all these stages, and then they're just no one at the end of it. They just completely lose themselves. But I think, there's loads of things. There's a couple of times I have to throw this in here. 1,000 is mentioned. Arya is recalling the steps where she has to go up and down the steps at the House of Black and White, and she recalls having had run up and down the steps 1,000 times. When the face change takes place, she thinks about the taste of lemons, and it reminds her of Winterfell, and she thinks about how that seems like 1,000 years ago. So there's a lot of magical references that are coming, that are becoming more linked with when 1,000 is ever mentioned. The question that I've got for you is, do you think that, so obviously the faceless man gave the gift, the young girl, the ugly little girl, the gift. Arya is experiencing their last moments as part of the face change, which is horrific. It's a horrible way that she died. But do you think that there's a reason that they're giving Arya this particular identity?
There has to be a reason for everything. I mean,
rather than just a random face off the wall.
It does prepare her for that mercy role later on. I mean, it does quite a lot in a very short space of time. It gives her the experience of what it's like to be horribly abused and die, like, in a horrendous way, without her having to go through it. So it kind of creates this, I guess, this is going to sound weird, but this safe space for violence where she can experience it without actually experiencing it. It's almost like a virtual reality version of what she may have to put herself through in order to kill somebody.
Completely messing around with your mind, indoctrination, manipulation, all of this is happening. And it would be working very effectively with anybody, including Arya, if she hadn't had this imprint already that's so strong, which is her Stark identity, Needle, Winterfell, the night wolf. The night wolf mainly is the thing that keeps pulling her back. But I think they do not want Arya to get hurt. I don't think not in a benevolent way, but I just don't think they want her to waste the opportunity to be able to use somebody like Arya and manipulate her, whether they've got the right person or not. You know, this is a powerful Stark warg child, and I don't think they're going to want anything bad to happen to her. So although she's experienced this virtual, choking and brutal attack, she is effectively, and the name of the chapter is The Ugly Little Girl. And I think that they've deliberately, because the description of this girl, and especially because her face has been smashed in by her father, it kind of gives Arya a bit of safety and anonymity in the, this is going to sound really terrible, but she's probably less likely to be raped, for example. Yeah. When she's out on a mission and they're testing her and what have you. So it's kind of like, we'll give you the safe option. No one's going to go anywhere near you because you're such a mess. It kind of, in a way, we're giving you this experience, so you know how powerful we are, but we're kind of making it a safe trip as well.
Yeah, and also it's so remote from her experience of her own father. Like, it's just the complete it would just seem so like, if that was me, it would just seem so unreal from my experience of my own dad. Like, he would never be like that. So it would feel like you're watching somebody else go through it, even though you'd have the sensation of experiencing it yourself. It's so remote from what Ned was like that she doesn't fall into it, if that makes sense. Like, she doesn't fall into that identity. Like, if it was any way like Ned, then that would be problematic. Or anyway, like her experience with her own dad, it would be problematic. And like, it feels as though they're speeding up her training here, and the fact that she becomes an acolyte so quickly.
Yeah,
it just seems like this isn't the norm. This isn't how it works. Like, it feels like it shouldn't be this quick. And I know she's been there probably a year or more now at this stage, but it still feels like, when you compare to somebody at the Citadel and the power you get at the Citadel, it's not, there's no comparison. It just feels like,
no, I mean, you don't get child maesters, do you, that just kind of get fast tracked in like the first year, like you're now an archmeister at 15. Whereas she's been dropped right in the deep end here with the whole faceless men processes. I mean, she's on a mission. They give her a mission to kill somebody. But again, that is all of it is a test, and they're testing again whether or not she's able to follow instruction. She's never has been able to, right up until the Mercy chapter. She has her own agenda. She judges too much, and that's what they're trying to knock out of her, and you can't, because it's Arya Stark. So with this merchant, she immediately, as soon as she sees him, judges him to be evil, just on sight, just by looking at him. She immediately forms the opinion that this guy is evil. I don't know whether this is some sort of message from George R.R. Martin about insurance, because it's definitely, he's an insurance guy, basically, isn't he? Arya can't figure out what it is that he's doing and why he's taking this money and what have you. And he's very, very clever, the way that she kills him in the end, getting him to bite the coin. But she judges him, and then she justifies his death as a kindness. So she's been very I mean, the absolute opposite of a faceless man is somebody who comes along and wields this power in their own name, with their own agenda and vendetta, and justifies why they are doing what they're doing. And that's exactly what Arya's doing. she shouldn't have any kind of justification. She's just been, all she needs to say is, I don't know that person. She doesn't need to know why. She's been given a mission. That's it. Go out and kill. You don't need to judge them. You don't need to have any kind of opinion on who they are or what they've done. And you certainly don't need to justify that taking that person out will benefit, you know, whatever you think the bigger picture is. They're never, ever, ever going to be able to tame her, ever. So,
but I don't know if they want to. I don't know if they want to. Because I don't know if it'll be like the show where not only does Arya have these amazing abilities, but suddenly she's also able to just take anyone's face. Like she doesn't need she's able to be separate. I don't know if it'll be like that for her. Although it was for Jack Nagar, so maybe. But it feels as if they're adding to her warging abilities with this, because like Bran can warg and that's powerful and all that kind of thing, but like Bran is still using somebody else's body. It's still like there's still a lack of familiarity there when he wargs, whereas Arya retains her body and her familiarity with how she, like, she'll still have all these, you know, assassination skills. She doesn't need to teach the body. She has the muscle memory, I guess, if you like. So there's, I think people overestimate Bran, maybe me included, overestimate just how powerful he will be, and he is very powerful. But perhaps we underestimate what the House of Black and White are giving Arya here. And in the same way we say that, like, Dany might be some sort of deity for the red religion, Euron might be some sort of deity for the drowned god, or Aeron maybe, and Bran maybe for the children of the forest. It seems as if Arya could be like a version of the many-faced god in and of herself, you know.
Well, you could argue that she's a champion of the many-faced god, and they're looking for who their champion is, and they think it's her. Or she could indeed be the many-faced god. She's certainly had many, many names and many faces.
It's funny because Bran is also kind of many-faced, so we could have a many face-off. Thank you, Reese, for that. You're very good. Hi, Bubba. How are you? AJ says there's some sort of magical version of a footprint or something left behind. Yeah, there definitely seems to be that kind of vibe going on. But I don't know. I don't know. Do they do this a lot? Is it like Bloodraven, where, you know, people have that theory that he's done this a lot? You know, he potentially messed with Euron at one stage, or, you know, that there's. Do they do this a lot? Do they create lots of people like Arya, or are they just? Is it super unique that they've found this warg kid that they're able, like, that Jaqen has manipulated to come across?
Do they look for people particularly? Do they groom people? Do they target people? Is it just a case of whoever turns up and knocks on the door and seems like they're, you know, who knows?
The Arya situation seems unique. The little we know, it seems unique because she's so unique. She's so unique as a character.
Arya, absolutely. They recruited her and they targeted her, and they knew it would take a while. Who knows? It could have even been since the day she was born. Before then, maybe there was some kind of faceless men prophecy about, you know, a powerful child who will.
Well, that's what I think, and I wonder, was it Bran that they wanted, but they got Arya?
Yeah, maybe.
Like that like with most things, like with the Azor Ahai thing, there's loads of characters that could fit it.
Yeah. And you picked the wrong one. You didn't quite make the right decision. Could be.
Yeah.
But I also think that, you know, the end of this chapter, again, they're kind of stepping up the game. It's like it is an extra level. So you start off with an ugly face where there's a bit of protection, and you know, you're less likely to be kind of perhaps raped or bothered or beaten or whatever, because you're already in a mess. People are going to leave you alone. But right at the very end of the chapter, it's like, now you get to have a pretty face, which should, I suppose, make you kind of go, oh, that's great. Well, you know, that's better when I look in the mirror or whatever. But actually, that's completely put her in more danger. So again, another level of testing Arya and her abilities, and we know that the pretty face ends up being Mercy. Yeah,
and it's, which is funny because Arya, by all accounts, is actually growing into quite a beauty, maybe even more beautiful than Sansa. So she doesn't necessarily need any of these additional faces.
Who are the Blackberry? Who's the Blackberry guy, Bubba? That's why I think old Nan and the faceless guy, and the Blackberry guy. Sorry, are faceless men.
Blackberry guy. I don't know who that is.
Guy? I'm drawing a blank.
You have us completely. There now. Yeah, you have us there now, Bubba. Well, and you know, old Nan. You know, I still have that kind of bit of tinfoil that Arya will take old Nan's face. I think old Nan is still alive. There's no way old Nan is out of the story yet. She comes up way too much.
No,
way
she's
too
far
much.
Too significant. Yeah.
And Arya in particular thinks a lot about her. So I think that would be really interesting if she ended up with old Nan. Old Nan's face. I think that would be an interesting way of her to sneak into Winterfell. Or Jane's face. She's going to have to take somebody, but I think it'll be old Nan. I want it to be old Nan because I think that'd be a really good
There's something in this as well with the faceless men about they can't make her do something. She has to say that she wants it herself. You know, that old, again, it's that an old sort of storytelling trick, I suppose. Trope. Yeah.
Trope, yeah.
It's that, you know, he asked, you don't have to kill the person. He kindly man says to her, you don't have to kill him. And of course, Arya's, no, I want to do this mission. And he also asks again, before they take the face off the wall to do the face change, he says, you don't have to do this, you know. Are you sure this is what you want? You know, so at the crucial times where she's not going to say no, they ask this question. And then maybe there's something magical about that, you know, it's a bit like, it's like, you know, don't invite a vampire in, kind of, you know, that sort of, you know, there needs to be rules around this.
Yeah, that's true. And I think this is one way in which the show has probably ruined certain things for us because they've abandoned the rules. We don't know what the rules are in the show, and that's like that's a big no-no in horror as well. Like, you have to have rules. There has to be rules. Like, that's otherwise it's free for all. Sunny says, Bubba said the Blackberry guy is the one who gives Bran blackberries in the glass gardens. I am totally drawing a blank. Bubba, you have me there anyway, for sure. Sunny says, old Nan must be alive because she has more stories to tell us. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And she's going to come riding in on an ice spider, isn't she? In the prologue of Winds.
That'd be amazing. Or you know, she's just the one that takes out the Night King at the end. Yeah, she's brilliant. I want more old Nan. But okay, so that's it for me and Arya. Did you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Nope. So the next time, which is the 17th of February, it will be Cersei 2, Tyrion 12, and the Kingbreaker. Kingbreaker? Kingmaker? Kingbreaker. Kingbreaker. Is that Barristan?
The Kingbreaker, yes, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. So and we will have shame the next time.
Yes, we will.
Bubba says, finally, I think the faceless man have been waiting on a Stark with warging ability, but also serious issues with self-identity. Yeah, it's a nice little combination that she has going on there. In fairness, all the Starks had that well, except for Robb. we don't know what Rob had. Maybe he did have crisis of self-identity. I don't know. But yeah, so next time, get your shears out. We're going to shave Cersei and send her down the street. I might be as bald as Cersei by then. Who knows? But no shame in that. No shame in that.
No.
So, thank you so much, Claire, and thank you everybody who joined us in the chat. And we'll see you on the 17th of February. Bye, everybody.
See you soon. Bye.